it's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for Season 10 of The Walking Dead. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at how will Maggie return in the Season 10 finale, Season 10 Episode 16, which is called A Certain Doom. Now, of course, we have seen Maggie's first scene coming back because that was in the opening minutes of the Season 10 finale that they released a few months ago. However, we don't necessarily know how Maggie's gonna come back into the story in a way where she's gonna not only maybe see but interact with some of the survivors like Daryl, Carol, and so on. So let's backtrack a little bit. Of course, we do know that it was Carol who was sending Maggie these letters telling her about the Whispers and about the threat of the Whispers, and that was the little tease that we got in the opening minutes. Now, we don't necessarily know if Maggie's actually gonna take that letter and see it as a calling for her to come back and help the survivors, or whether something else is gonna force Maggie to come back. I'm leaning more towards those letters being the trigger for why Maggie comes back, but there could be other reasons. But that's beside the point. The point is, how is she actually going to come back? There's been lots of rumors or speculation that the character that we see in the opening minutes, the character in the iron mask that we see in the opening minutes, is actually Maggie. I don't actually think that's Maggie. I've talked a lot about who that character could be, but I don't think it's Maggie. Whether that is Maggie or not, we know that there's a very good chance that Maggie is going to come back and potentially save the survivors. It could go down as the survivors are trapped and Maggie comes to the rescue in the last moments. And that's like my prediction or speculation in terms of how she's actually going to make her comeback into this story. Now, with that said, the interesting part is that Maggie coming back and saving the survivors will be a lot more impactful, and you can call it shocking, if Negan is at one end of it. Like, imagine if Negan is the primary person that's trapped and Maggie saves him. So it would be less impactful if, let's say, 15 or 20 of our survivors are out there, Negan being one of them, and Maggie comes in and rescues them all. That's a little less impactful than, let's say, 3 characters are there, Negan being one of them, and then Maggie comes in and saves the day. So I think it's more likely that there will be less people involved in that story. And the reason I'm even throwing Negan in the mix is because that's usually what they do in stories. They make it so that 2 characters who can't stand each other actually have to work with each other, or one saves the other. And that kind of changes the dynamic between them. So in this case, who else can they really throw in there to satisfy that circumstance? Now, the other thing that comes into play is, how's Daryl gonna fit in all of this? I think what they're probably planning to do and what they're setting up in the finale is have a situation where Negan and Daryl are trapped. Maybe there's walkers and whispers all around them, and maybe the odds are not looking good for them. But maybe at that point, it's Maggie and maybe others. Maybe she brought a group of people with her, some militia from wherever she came from. We know that she came from Georgie's community, so it only makes sense for her to come with people and not come alone. I mean, she could come back alone, but I'm speculating that she's going to come back with others as well. So imagine it's Maggie and other militia members that she's with that come in, take care of the Whispers and the Walkers, and save Daryl and Negan. I think that would be super interesting. And obviously, it's going to be super cool and pretty exciting to see how Negan and Maggie are going to react to one another in that circumstance, in that situation. And I'm sure that Negan, being the one that has pretty much crippled the Whispers, it's going to be a big reason why Maggie may not necessarily want to kill Negan right then and there. And she might actually not think of him as the old Negan anymore, because let's remember, it was Negan that killed Alpha, the leader of the Whispers, single-handedly. So I'm sure that that's going to come into play at some point as well. And Daryl being there, I'm sure that at some point he's going to vouch for Negan as well. Maybe not necessarily in a way where he tells Maggie to forgive him, but in a way where Daryl says, let's just focus on the threat at hand and then deal with the other crap later. And the other thing that could make things even more interesting is for Beta to be connected to that story in some sort of way. Now, I'm not saying Maggie's gonna come and kill Beta and save everyone. That's a little too cliche and too convenient if you ask me. But how it could go down that's more realistic and grounded in reality is such that after Maggie saves everyone, that's when they're just going back and Beta shows up. But Daryl and Negan tell Maggie that they'll take care of it and that she and the militia can go to help the other survivors. Something along those lines. That would actually take Maggie and the militia that she might be with away from Beta and the others and let Daryl and Negan do what they need to do. Now, you may ask, why don't they just all kind of attack Beta and kill him? Well, it's personal for both Negan and Daryl. They don't want to come off as weak in front of Beta. They don't want to seem like they brought like 20 people with them to defeat him. You know what I mean? So that might play into why they might just tell Maggie and the militia to go and save the survivors that might be trapped in the tower and let Negan and Daryl take care of Beta. And like I said, the other part of it is it's extremely realistic because I'm sure that they would rather have the militia and Maggie go to save the survivors than have them take care of Beta at the risk of the survivors who are trapped in the tower getting killed. You know what I mean? So I think that would be super interesting and awesome if it goes down like that. But all of these are my speculation. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but if it goes down anywhere close to what I said, I think it would be super awesome and very, very exciting and kind of cool to see Maggie and Negan again together and how they're going to react in this circumstance and how Daryl is going to fit in that scenario. The old Daryl, of course, wouldn't do anything like this. He would help Maggie kill Negan, but Daryl has changed and Daryl has seen Negan's good side. So that's why Daryl might not necessarily do what everyone thinks he's gonna do in that situation. But with all of that said, I am interested to know everyone's thoughts and opinions. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about this theory and whether you think it's gonna go down like that or whether you think it's gonna go down just a little differently. But with all of that said, that's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.